Can you actually prove that patients hold their adjustments better? After thousands of cases, the results are in, and they're powerful. A few years ago, I quit going to the gym. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it, it was just inefficient. I switched instead to a daily resistance band workout that I could do at home. Once I understood the science of variable resistance training, it just made sense. I was able to achieve the same result in 20 minutes that used to take me 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. If you're interested to know more about that, check out the book Weightlifting is a Waste of Time by Dr. John Jackish. I bought Dr. Jackish's X3 workout system, which was a significant investment, especially when you consider the postage to Australia and our crappy Australian dollar conversion. But it was worth every cent in time saved and improved results. Then, about a year ago, he came up with the X3 Force Bar, which is exactly the same bar, but with a capacity to measure force in real time. By connecting it with an app, I can see exactly how much total force I'm producing with every rep and each exercise overall. Of course, that was another significant investment, but again, it was totally worth it. Why? Well, because what gets measured improves. Every workout, I can see when I'm approaching my previous max force, and it encourages me to squeeze out every last drop of effort to beat it, which drives continuous improvement and accelerates progress. So today we're going to talk about why this matters in your practice and how to develop and communicate total certainty about your results. This same fundamental dynamic applies across all domains of life: finances, business, health. It's why wearable devices are becoming one of the biggest industries on the planet. It's because we live in a data-driven economy. As Dr. Fransom from The Remarkable Practice puts it, being a great CEO is 2 parts data and 1 part gut. If you're guessing, you're stressing. That's why I'm so excited by the purchase I made over the weekend at the Remarkable Practice Immersion in Brisbane. I had a conversation with Dr. David Fletcher, founder and CEO of CLA, about their INSiGHT scanning technology. Now, their technology has been around for decades, although they've continually improved it over that time. And it's used in thousands of chiropractic clinics around the world. I'm sure you've come across it. I've looked at it for many years. However, for one reason or another, it was just never the right time. But talking to David, I learned that he's done quite a bit of work with foot levelers and the orthotic group in the past, using their technology to investigate the physiological impact of their orthotics. He was really impressed with our stimulation versus support model and the neurological implications of Better Balance Orthotics. He said to me, "This is definitely the future, and it aligns perfectly with chiropractic." I couldn't agree with him more. I love finding new ways to validate the effects of our orthotics. In my clinic, we use posture photos, we use vestibular plate technology to measure balance, thermal images to measure blood flow and lymphatics, and of course, all of our chiropractic, orthopedic, and neurological testing to measure the lasting changes that we see. Now, we're going to have a whole new set of data to add to that growing body of evidence. One piece I'm particularly excited about is their HRV, their heart rate variability measurement. Research has consistently identified HRV as one of the best leading indicators of health. What that means is that it identifies problems before they occur, unlike most health measures, which are based on lagging indicators. They just measure what's already happened. I have quite a bit of anecdotal evidence that wearing Better Balance Orthotics improves HRV, mainly from people with wearable devices such as an Oura ring or a wristband that tracks heart rate. For example, Dr. Caleb recently told me that when he started wearing Better Balance Orthotics, his sleep score consistently improved by 20 points. And then on the one day when he wore different work boots without his orthotics, the score dropped by 20 points again and went right back up the next day when he wore them. It's cool to hear these kind of stories, but now we'll have a solid clinical data set to back it up. Because results matter. They drive greater clinical certainty for you and greater confidence and long-term outcomes for your patients. One question I get asked by docs is, how do you actually know that patients who wear Better Balance Orthotics hold their adjustments better? It's a fair question, and the answer is simple. Data, not opinion, not hope, real-world results. At the TRP Immersion over the weekend, I had an opportunity to invite someone up on stage to demonstrate the immediate effects of our orthotics. You can see it for yourself if you follow the link in the comments below. I told the audience we're going to measure 3 specific variables: range of motion, pain and muscle spasm, and muscle activation. As you can see from the clip, All 3 measurements visibly improved. His cervical and shoulder range of motion improved, his pain and spasm decreased immediately, and his hip flexors went from totally inhibited to firing normally. This wasn't one of those, here's one I prepared earlier type of demos. It was a genuinely random volunteer that I invited up from the audience. The first time I did this in front of a live audience, to use a quaint Australian term, I was shitting bricks. I had no idea if I was about to look like a fool. I knew the orthotics worked clinically, but would it be clear and obvious enough for a live audience to see the immediate changes? Could have been a disaster. Fortunately, that's not what happened. Nor has it ever happened in the many times since that I've done this live demonstration. It works every single time. How can I be so sure? Experience and data. We've now measured thousands of patients across hundreds of clinics on a range of both objective and subjective variables. Patients who wear Better Balance Orthotics do hold their adjustments better, period. Their symptoms improve faster. They move better. They experience less fatigue when they're on their feet. Their objective findings change. Their x-rays, their posture photos, their thermal scans, their vestibular scans, palpation findings, spinal listings, range of motion, cerebellum tests. I know you're already seeing these changes in your practice, even in patients who don't wear our orthotics. Chiropractic alone is amazing, right? And we know it works. But I'm telling you, there is more available. When you add Better Balance Orthotics to your care plan, changes happen faster and they last longer. My very first day in practice, I walked in as the sole doctor to an empty practice. The previous doc had quit, so there was no one there to mentor me or show me the ropes. I looked at his notes and I was totally puzzled. There was like a few listings along the top line and then just whole pages of TAA, TAA, TAA. And I had no idea what that meant, so I had to call my boss and ask him to explain. And here's what he said. TAA stands for treatment as above. I was completely floored. This wasn't a care plan. This was like a single adjustment just on repeat for months. It was one of my biggest challenges when I was working in the student clinic at university. I remember asking my clinic supervisor, I adjusted this patient's L4, and it was a great adjustment, at least so I thought at the time. But then he came back next week and it went back again. What do I do? Of course, the answer was, adjust it again. Now, obviously I understand that not every problem resolves with one adjustment. But if you have to continuously adjust the same segment again and again, then you're missing the deeper cause. What you're adjusting is a compensation pattern. It's one of the things I love about the AK paradigm. It gave me the tools to investigate the chemical and emotional side of the triad of health, to uncover some of the causes I was previously missing. This isn't unique to AK. D.D. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, stated that the primary causes of subluxation were trauma, toxins, and autosuggestion. These are just different words for the same structural, chemical, emotional model. As chiropractors, we understand that our structure forms the foundation of our health. So to take that one step further, our feet form the foundation of our structure. They are literally the foundation of our foundation. And in many practices, they're being largely ignored, or maybe adjusted now and then, but then left to operate in the same modern shoes and flat surface environment that caused their breakdown in the first place. Doesn't it seem logical that patients who wear Better Balance Orthotics would hold their adjustments better? At the TRP Immersion, Dr. Malcolm shared the example of Sisyphus, the Greek king who was sentenced to forever push a boulder uphill, as an analogy to describe the constant push of driving retention in your practice. It was a great metaphor. It really struck home for me. His point was that you never get to stop pushing, but if you have the right systems in your practice, you can at least reduce the steepness of the slope that you're pushing the boulder up. This doesn't just apply to your business systems. The same thing is true in clinical practice. Adjusting patients without using Better Balance Orthotics to lock in and maintain their benefits is like pushing a boulder up a hill like this, versus when you prescribe Better Balance Orthotics to help them maintain their adjustments and build on their progress faster. It looks more like this. I know which I'd rather. I remember the days when I first started practicing chiropractic. I had 5 years of theory and university training behind me, but virtually no real-world experience to build a basis for clinical certainty. And it showed in my practice, in my communication, in my confidence. My boss at the time told me there were two things I could rely on: objective data and the experience of those who'd come before me. He said, you can borrow my certainty until you build your own. And I did build my own, right? Over the last 24 years in practice, I've arrived at a place of unshakable certainty about the benefits of chiropractic. You might not be at that place yet when it comes to Better Balance Orthotics. That's okay. The data backs you up. And until your level of certainty becomes as bulletproof as mine is, you're welcome to borrow my certainty. Thanks. Have a great week.